Tarika Foster-Brasby, thank you for joining me again today so we can get into some free agency, WNBA free agency news. Look, we finished talking about Connecticut Sun earlier because we know everyone knows you cover the Sun, so go check that out, guys, if you missed it. But there was also some other news that maybe is not a surprise to anyone, but we finally know what's happening with Kelsey Mitchell, and it is that she will be returning to the Indiana Fever, which is, I think, really the best destination for her. So I'm glad ultimately that this was the decision that she made. They're very excited in Indy right now for her return, Tarika. There was this cute video that was posted on their socials with her walking in and the fans welcoming her. And I just feel like after all the losing seasons Kelsey had to endure there and just everything, the way that this franchise is now starting to turn around, I really love this for her. And I'm glad she's getting this kind of welcome. You see Caitlin Clark there with her. And so I just think that that's a beautiful thing. And I'm really happy for Kelsey. I personally think that this was the best decision for her,
Yeah.
right? It seems like she's returning under the core designation because we know that Indiana did core her. She was an unrestricted free agent, and free
Mhm.
agent signings can't actually happen until February 1st. But like their posts seem to indicate that she's signed and she's back. So if she signed, it would have to be the core. So just using a little deductive reasoning to get there. But I think this was the best move for her. It seemed earlier in the season that she might want to test free agency, talk to some different teams. But I don't know what. Hopefully, her decision was just I want to return to Indiana to play here because we had a great last season. I love playing with Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah in this franchise, and we're turning it around. But
Mhm.
I also looking at the rest of the teams and the landscape out there, Tarika, I know she wants to continue winning and have a chance to make some noise. And I'm looking now that all these other free agency moves happen. I'm not seeing somewhere else for Kelsey Mitchell to go. So I think this makes the most sense. It'll be for 1 year. And then Indiana can core her again, but we shove it next year. She can see what happens if she still, for some reason, is thinking about testing free agency or maybe wanting to move on.
Yeah, I never at any point did I feel like Kelsey Mitchell would leave the moment that they hired Stephanie White to be the head coach. In that video, I could see Keith
Okay.
Porter as well, who was an assistant out here in Connecticut when Stephanie was out here. So she did a great job of bringing her coaching staff with her to Indiana, which is also Austin Kelly, keeping Karima Christmas Kelly. And so it's a new look Indiana Fever from that standpoint, right? Then you also add in the relationship that she was able to build with Caitlin Clark and their dynamic on the court. 2024 to me was by far her best season. And she'd been with that franchise since 2018, right? She was a two-time All-Star, 23 and 24. And yeah, she did agree to the super max of the core contract, which is essentially what that deal is a supermax salary in exchange for exclusive negotiation rights. And so they negotiated her to be able to stay. I know that Kelsey has a commitment to winning. And one of her frustrations that she had since being a part of this franchise was that there did not seem to be a commitment to winning from someone other than her. And I feel like with not only the front office changes, the coaching changes, adding players like Aaliyah Boston, adding players like Caitlin Clark, like the work relationship that she had even beforehand with Nalissa Smith, because she was the first to come over to try to start to shift and change the tide. I think Kelsey sees there is a commitment to winning. And then you add into the fact that they recently just announced that this team is investing $78 million into a player facility specifically for the Indiana Fever. And because I don't want to get this incorrect, I'm going to read to you exactly what those terms are, or what the details are around that practice facility. And this comes from Rachel Galligan, who lives in Indianapolis, by the way, women's basketball writer, reporter, and former coach. But she says construction begins August 2025, which will be opening prior to the 2027 WNBA season. It'll be 3 stories, 108,000 square feet space, 2 regulation size court with lots of natural light, the strength and conditioning center, a yoga and Pilates area, a hydration station, full service kitchen, spa, salon, and mental performance center. There will also be childcare space and podcast and content production studios located inside of this facility.
Incredible.
I mean, when you see all of this,
Incredible.
this is the tangible visual investment that players want to see. And I think that was enough between, again, the changes in management, the addition of players, being in the postseason and knowing what that feels like, a two-time back-to-back All-Star. I feel like this was the best decision for Kelsey, and I do hope it works out for her and this team.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, like we saw the big change that Indiana made. They had like a break that came in their season. Well, two breaks actually. They had like a 5-day break where they just, because their season was really jam-packed to start last season. And they had this 5-day break and they came back looking like a new team. And then they got a second break after the Olympics. And after that, Kelsey Mitchell, we'd already started to see she was having once she kind of remember, she didn't start the season right away because of the injuries, but once she kind of got back to herself, she was looking like herself. Caitlin Clark went through some very, very early struggles, but then she started to turn around. When they came back after that 5-game break, they looked great. When they came back after the Olympics, they really looked great. And so now continuing another season of that continuity, everyone being a year older, being more developed, this investment, I think it's the place for her to be. Her and Caitlin Clark are the best backcourt in the league, right? Is that a debate or arguable? I don't know.
I think it's arguable.
They're in there, right? And so, I think they're going to be putting on a show for us. I think they're going to be great to watch. So I love this move that Kelsey decided to stay there. I think the only questions that remains are maybe not a single question, but what else because there's money that Indiana has to spend. So what else are they going to do? What other free agency additions may they make? They lost Temi to the Valkyries in the expansion draft. And so and she's someone who Caitlin Clark liked to run with. We know Caitlin Clark likes bigs that she can run with. Nalissa Smith, not sure. It seemed like maybe she wasn't happy in Indiana, so not sure if she will be there to start their new season. So if she'll be moved for maybe another piece. So it will be interesting to watch and see a player that could potentially help them. I'm not sure. Bree Jones, a player that who obviously has been cored, but I don't know if Indiana has anything to give up that could be enticing to Connecticut. And there's just other free agents out there. So, Natasha Howard is out there. So, I know they're set with obviously Aaliyah Boston and they're set with their backcourt, but what other moves they might make in the front court or to strengthen their bench are to be determined. So it's interesting to see how free agency plays out for them, but their core seems to be locked up, and their core is Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, and Kelsey Mitchell. That's a pretty magnificent trio there, if you ask me.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't know for sure what anybody is going to do. I don't know for sure what is going to happen on the back end. We still have Foster-Brasby out here in the streets. And in a previous conversation, you and I discussed, I said I thought Indiana was the best place for her. Now I know that wasn't one of the teams that was listed on her preferred destinations, but I still believe that Indiana would be a fierce competitive team, even more so than they already are if they had the ability to add a Foster-Brasby to a roster. And you got to feel good about your potential to do that. Even if you aren't, someone that's considered a preferred team right now, you change the tide of what good, competitive, and a potential championship run looks like now that you've been able to lock up Kelsey Mitchell. Kelsey Mitchell is this franchise's second leading scorer after Tamika Catchings. So when when you think about players that have truly made the difference in a franchise, that is Kelsey Mitchell. I have said between her and Arike Ngobowale, they are the two best spot-up shooters I've ever seen. By the time you are trying to put your defense down, Kelsey is already halfway down the court and she's already let the ball go. And it's most likely going in. She's that good. So this is an amazing, I love this for Indiana. I really love this for Kelsey. She deserves it. I'm excited to see what 2025 is going to look like, man. The W is just is crazy.
It is crazy. It is. I'm loving it. Give me all of it. All
Yes.
right. Well, we'll be monitoring all these situations, and Tarika will be back as needed to discuss them. Thanks, Tarika.
See you, girl.